Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So Joe Biden says a $200 increase every single month for Social Security beneficiaries is something that's going to happen. So I'll be covering that statement that he made directly on X, formerly known as Twitter. Plus, the White House just put out a dire warning that we are going to be running out of funding on one key issue if we don't renew this by the end of the year. So we're going to be going over what that one key issue just so happens to be. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Also, if you would like to receive a few free stocks in a pinned comment below as well as in the description box, I will be leaving a few different links where you can receive just that. And the ones from Webull, all you have to do is open an account and deposit at least 1 penny. If you do so, you are going to be receiving 20 free stocks. Each stock is going to be worth at least $3. That's going to be anywhere between 60 to 100, possibly even more in free money. Once you go to sell those stocks, you can always transfer that money right back to your bank account. Okay, so diving right into the main content of today's video, the first story, of course, is that the White House just put out a major warning that if we don't renew this certain thing by the end of the year, we are going to be running out of money. So they're saying, hey, Congress, you absolutely need to renew this funding and give us some more funding. And you guess what this dire issue happens to be? Is it more funding for Social Security? Is it more money for the homeless? Is it more money for the hungry Americans? Is it more money for the US-Mexico border? Nope, just so happens to be more funding for Ukraine. So according to The Hill, the White House on Monday sounded the alarm that it will run out of money to provide weapons to Ukraine in its fight against Russia without congressional action by the end of the year. In a letter to congressional leaders, Office of Management and Budget Director Shalonda Young wrote the government is, quote, out of money and nearly out of time to continue giving aid to Ukraine. The White House pleaded with Congress to act on a supplemental funding request first submitted in October, arguing it is of critical importance to U.S. national security. Ukraine and Russia is important to the U.S. national security, not the U.S.-Mexico border, as it shows right there, according to them at least. They went on to say, quote, I want to be clear, without congressional action by the end of the year, we will run out of resources to procure more weapons and equipment for Ukraine and to provide equipment from U.S. military stocks. There is no magical pot of funding available to meet this moment. We are out of money and nearly out of time, Young wrote. We are out of money to support Ukraine in this fight. This isn't a next year problem, she added. The time to help a democratic Ukraine fight against Russian aggression is right now. It is time for Congress to act. So notice there, they're not telling Congress to act on more money for the homeless, for the hungry, for American families in trouble, struggling to pay for groceries and pay for essential bills. We're having people line up at grocery stores. I'm seeing personally, people are checking out their groceries instead of keeping everything that's in their cart. They're forced with the situation of, oh no, we actually have to take maybe half of the things out of the cart because we just don't have the money to pay for everything that's in there. It's a very sad situation, but instead of helping Americans out in need, no, they're deciding to, let's go ahead and send how much more? Well, $111 billion. $111 billion is how much more they want to approve to go to Ukraine. And of course, we have billions of other dollars going to other countries as well, while Americans are here at home struggling, while we have a Social Security program that's going to be going insolvent in 10 years. Instead of funding the programs that Americans want that would help Americans here at home, instead we're sending money abroad to other countries to fight these wars. Let me know what your thoughts in the comment section below are. I'm pretty sure you know what my thoughts are. And once again, there's a lot of other programs that we could be funding. There's a lot of other things that we could be funding. We had the US-Mexico border that absolutely needs more security. There's people coming across every single day. These people aren't being vetted. Sure, some of them might be great people just wanting to provide for their families, and it's a very hard situation in a lot of countries, and they're coming over here and they're wanting to work hard and have jobs and provide better for their families. But we don't know who all else is coming over. Is it terrorists? Are we going to end up having a terrorist attack on our land and be linked to someone crossing the border not being vetted? It's just a terrible, terrible situation. And of course, we have the child tax credit payments. A lot of Americans are in favor of those to, help provide for their children and their family. We have a lot of Americans on the street, homeless. There's the houses are higher and higher. It's harder to afford rent. It's harder to afford a mortgage. And then, of course, finally, we have Social Security. And according to numerous reports, And even the Social Security trustees report, and within the next 10 years, let's say like 2033, 2034, if nothing is done, they're going to have to cut benefits across the board by 20 to 25%. That means that if you're receiving $2,000 per month, that benefit is going to get cut down to $1,500. So $2,000 per month really isn't a whole lot of money, but if that gets cut by 20 to 25% down to $1,500 per month, well, that social safety net that Social Security is supposed to be really isn't going to be too great of a social safety net. So, at least in my opinion, I don't know about yours. Let me know in the comment section below. I believe they should probably be funding these other issues. Social Security, the border, everything else, rather than going and sending this money overseas to fight these other wars that they really have no end in sight. Is it going to go on for another year? Is it going to go on for 2 years? Is it going to go on for a decade, 2 decades? Nobody really knows, but we're going to continue sending this money overseas while Americans here at home are struggling. Now, of course, speaking of Social Security, whenever Joe Biden entered office, he actually promised a $200 per month increase. He said this is something that absolutely needs to happen. And right here up on the screen, we can see his tweet. This was back when it was Twitter. Now it's known as X. You can see the timestamp there, March 22nd of 2020. He said we should also increase monthly Social Security checks by $200 per month, as proposed by Senator Wyden and colleagues. Seniors and people with disabilities are uniquely at risk right now. So you can see right there that that's what Biden was saying. Now notice the election, it wasn't until November of 2020. So he's saying this back in March. The election in November, this was 8 months before the election took place. Just about 7 to 8 months before the election took place. So notice how he has all these promises that he's making just before the election. And whenever he got in office, so far we are 3 years in, he's almost at the end of his first term. And while he can't, direct like some type of executive order to increase payments by $200 per month, you haven't exactly seen him out there pushing Congress to get these things done. What have we seen him get done? We've seen him issue an executive order to cancel up to $20,000 of student loans. We've seen him push other things like the climate agenda, other issues that he really wants to get done. But as far as Social Security goes, he really hasn't really pushed for Congress to get things done. And sure, even if he did push Congress to get things done or have that $200 per month increase, sure, it could absolutely maybe just not end up passing in the end, but at least he should probably be sticking his head out there and really pushing Congress and, letting the American people know that he cares about this and, saving Social Security from going insolvent. So far, we really haven't seen him sticking his neck out too far. Instead, we've seen him in other issues such as canceling student loan debt and things like that, but really not a whole lot about Social Security. So at the end of the day, let me ask you, do you think that Biden actually truly cares about making Social Security last, making it a better, stronger program, helping Americans out and making it a social safety net that's going to last for decades to come? Again, let me know in the comment section below. And right now we actually have a bill out there by Bernie Sanders. It's called the Social Security Expansion Act. And in this bill, if it were to pass, it would be a $200 per month increase. But again, we haven't seen Biden out there really campaigning for this bill to pass. We haven't really seen him mention a whole lot about Social Security. So again, I ask you in the comment section below, let me know whether or not you think Biden actually cares about making it a stronger program. And meanwhile, as a country, we go further and further into national debt. It's obviously going to be an issue at some point. Biden doesn't really seem to care a whole lot. Trump really didn't seem to care that much either. It also increased under him. And during the first 3 years of Biden's presidency, he's actually claimed that he's reduced the debt when in fact it's actually gone up. He says that he's cut the debt by $1.4 trillion, by $1.7 billion, $1.7 trillion. He's throwing out all these other numbers, but clearly, according to U.S. Debt Clock, we can see that right now we are nearing in at $34 trillion in debt. So he hasn't exactly been doing a whole lot of cutting. But here's just a clip to end today's video, just showing Biden doing what Biden does best, just throwing out random numbers when pretty much half the things he's saying isn't exactly all that true. But I leave you with this video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
I cut the national debt by $1.7 trillion. We literally cut the federal debt in half by $1.4 trillion. $1.7 trillion. $1.7 trillion cut. We cut the debt by $1.7 billion in the last 2 years.
Let me say that again. $1.7 trillion.
I reduced the budget by $1.7 billion. Okay? I reduced the debt. We cut the federal debt in half. Fact.
In the first 2 years of my administration, I cut the debt by $1.7 trillion.
$1.7 billion.
$1.7 trillion. $1.7 trillion.
$1.7 trillion.
$7 billion. $1.7 trillion.
$1.7 billion. It's a trillion dollars. Not billion, trillion dollars.
$1.7 trillion. Hear me?
No one's ever reduced the debt that much.